Hello, this is James, and we're back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. And so let's get right into it. I would support at Justin Amash for Congress if he ran in any party. That's for shows principle. Supporting him only when he runs in our party shows partisanship. Sabotaging liberty candidates for the sake of our party demonstrates that you prioritize party over liberty. And that's from Dave Smith. And I said, good take from Dave Smith. I thought I would share here and get live news about Colorado today. They know Colorado said, the GOP Colorado said, we're not going to run spoiler candidates if the GOP runs candidates we deem significantly liberty enough. And I said, definition of what constitutes liberty can make differ from person to person. I guess if you want perfect to be the enemy of good, like I do, then it makes sense mostly support. It makes sense to support LP over GOP regardless of how libertarian they are, because LP is generally tends to be a lot more libertarian, a lot more autistic, I would say, than GOP. GOP is still kind of normie, I would say. And yeah, I do think that the GOP they've been getting a little better, I would say, recently, but they're still far from perfect, and I know that's the problem with them. I would say they're not nearly autistic enough. That's why personally I'm against the new LP Colorado. I think the LP that they're more autistic, and that's why I really like them as an autistic person. Illinois becomes the first state to outlaw book bans, an historic move from LGBTQNation.com by Whittling Dan. And I said, I said this on an earlier thread, but I don't like book bans, but I don't think we should be pushing Penthouse on kindergartners either. I don't think we should be pushing pornography onto kindergartners either, but I do think you have to remember that no books in Florida are technically banned. They're just removed from school libraries, and removing a book from a school library isn't technically banning it, I would say. But I guess if you want to, I personally would be stigmatized giving kids books about saying that Sandy Hook was fake or ones that are pornographic. But the thing is that I don't know if those would exactly constitute book bans. I would say I think if you want to just guide something to a kid, that's fine. But some material I do think should be stigmatized. That's my thought there. Tennessee Christian fascist capitalist Republican Party associated pastor stole over $250,000 from charity found to pay for hookers. Honestly, living more like Jesus than most pastors. First Christian was organized from deadsgetsake.org by Chi-Town. Of course, that's another narrative post. People generally misuse money regardless of where they are. I would say, a lot of church members and a lot of politicians, everyone misuses money, and I think that there are a lot of bad faith actors all around the spectrum, all around the political spectrum, all around the country who misuse money, and that's kind of the sad truth of the system we live in. People are going to misuse resources if they can get away with it, which usually stuff like this shows they usually can't get away with it though. Would a compromise for U.S. border security allow relaxed Mexican borders but patrol Mexico's southern border instead? That's a post from Abundant Waters, and I guess that'd be a good argument. I would say I would agree with that. Yeah, I think if people want to police the border, they should be able to. But I don't think I'm personally not really a big border guy. I think if people want to justify policing the border, I think you should be able to. But I definitely think we should definitely be as open border as possible, even in light of the current welfare state, I would say. But hopefully we can get rid of that and get more open border, I would say. Global economic inequality at lowest level in nearly 150 years from Axios.com by Ruin My Circle Jerk. And yeah, it kind of goes against a lot of people's narratives these days, I would say. Especially a lot of socialists, and I would say a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, I would say, on all over the political spectrum, goes against narrative. And I think that's important to realize how historically people have suffered a lot more than a lot of the current people, but somehow we feel we are suffer the most. So, everyone just kind of feels that suffering is, just kind of inevitable, and that everyone feels like they have it the worst. But historically, times have been worse. I would agree with that. Companies that publicly condemned legislation targeting the LGBTQ plus community send political contributions to state lawmakers who advance anti-LGBTQ plus bills. Remember, actions speak louder than words. It's obvious that corporate America does not care about the LGBTQ plus community, and that's from OpenSecrets.org by International Silver One. And I said, doesn't really matter. Most LGBTQ NPCs will go to pride rallies sponsored by Lockheed Martin, carry around their logo because it has a rainbow background anyway. That was just the thing that came out of DC Pride recently. They had the Lockheed Martin float and section of their parade, and I would hope they're being paid. But if they're not being paid, if they aren't being paid, it just shows you it doesn't matter. A lot of LGBTQ supports Disney. But Disney that says they give a lot to anti-LGBTQ in this article. So the thing is that I don't trust mass corporations, especially when they use identity politics like they are currently. And I think this is a good reason as to why I just don't trust mass corporations. Even when they're flying the rainbow flag. When the CIA flies the rainbow flag, that doesn't make it any more trustworthy. That's my thoughts on the issue. Only authoritarians and fake libertarians will disagree with this. And it's a meme from Strong Ninja 454455, and it's the Drake meme, but it's the police, and it says it was a policeman emoji over Drake's head, and it says enforcing the Constitution, and it has the hand like this, and then enforcing unconstitutional laws made by the establishment. And then it's the old Drake man, yeah, I agree with that. I would say, the thing is that the government is going to enforce whatever laws it wants to, and use the police as the means to do that. And I think that's why you should, if you think the law is unconstitutional, or even if you do think it's constitutional and you still don't agree with it, I think as long as NAP isn't being violated, you should be able to vote. You should be able to break that law and nullify it as long as as long as NAP isn't being violated. That's my thought there. Southern Baptist vote to keep out churches with female pastors from mytimes.com by Kage blah blah blah. And I think I think that the thing is that if churches want to do whatever they want, they should be able to. But I do think some people might have problems with stuff like this, and I think that's okay. Every denomination church, I think I'm very libertarian. Each church will be able to do whatever it wants as long as NAP isn't being violent. I don't think this is NAP violation, so I personally would be more against this. But I think if they want to do it, they should be able to. Feds tell automakers not to comply with Massachusetts' right to repair law from ArsTechnica.com by Harumph. And that just goes to show you, I don't think, I would agree with the feds in this case. That's a rare occasion I would over the state government, because I don't think corporations should be forced to repair things, even if they are broken. But I guess if the Massachusetts government wants to nullify that, I think they should be able to if they want to justify that. But I think if the corporations therefore want to nullify that, they should be able to as well. That's my thoughts there. Fox News shouldn't air in Canada despite Tucker Carlson ouster. LGBTQ2S plus group argues from cctvnews.co, and I posted that. And I said, regardless of your thoughts on Fox News, we shouldn't be justifying censorship of political opposition. That's my thoughts there. We always need to have free speech and free for everyone, and so everyone can say whatever they want, I think, yeah. Nearly a year later, most Americans oppose Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe from NPR.org by Harumph. I would consider myself one of the most Americans in that article. I would say I personally think Roe v. Wade, it kind of put like kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like it was a. I think it was a compromise that everyone could kind of deal with. Some states could say, "Well, we can only go with having one abortion clinic that's open like 3 days a year," and that would fit under Roe v. Wade. But I definitely think you have the states' rights arguments as well. I guess that's a good argument as well. I personally would consider probably kept Roe, but I guess the states' rights arguments are good too. I guess I think if the state should consider something to be murder and they don't want to have business in the state, then I don't think they should be forced to. Congress should improve and then pass the Venezuelan Adjustment Act. The bipartisan legislation would grant permanent residency and work rights to some 400,000 refugees from Venezuela's brutal socialist dictatorship. From Reason.com by Rumpf. I think that would be good. I think we should be taking in as many refugees as possible because it's good to get as many different perspectives as possible, and I think that is something that should be passed. I agree there. School libraries in Texas must clear shelves of sexually explicit books for new law in place. From WFA.com by Rumpf. And of course, that's the thing is the state can define anything it wants to be sexually explicit, so that's important to remember as well. But I guess I guess this is going to probably be selectively enforced. And I personally would say the schools shouldn't have sexually explicit material in them, but you do have the libertarian argument as well that each school should make its own decisions and not have the state make decisions for it. Didn't know the Chinese had a word for writers from LP Georgia. That was a meme they posted, and it was a thing from a dictionary. Buzzuo, pronounced Buzua, is a Chinese epithet meaning naive, Western-educated person who advocated for peace and equality only to satisfy their own feeling of moral superiority. A Buzua only cares about topics such as immigration, minorities, LGBT, and the environment, while being obsessed with political correctness to the extent that they import backwards Islamic values for the sake of multiculturalism. The Chinese see the bourgeois as ignorant and arrogant Westerners who pity the rest of the world and think they're saviors. Yeah, as I said, that's pretty much the Redditors. Thomas, it's kind of like, Thomas Sell used to call them the Anointed. Then in the 2010s, we called them the SJWs. Now we call them the Woke. There's lots of words for them, but, they're all the same people who think they are morally superior in every sense of the word, and who think they should have the ability to make whatever rules they want for the rest of us because they are so morally superior and they always have the correct idea. That's according to themselves. That's my thoughts there. Twitter suspends 2 accounts linked to Elon Musk critic, free speech absolutist from Barons.com by Chi-Town20. And I definitely think, maybe they were threatening violence. I personally am a free speech absolutist, but you do have to keep the advertisers happy. And I do think, it's something you have to remember as well. Governor DeSantis signs car dealership protection bill banning most direct-to-consumer auto sales. From FloridaPolitics.com, from Range Lover. I guess, that's a bit of an overreach. I think, people should be able to sell whatever they want to anyone else. And, sorry, the phone's ringing. Hello? That was always a good stuff. So anyway, I think people should be able to sell whatever they want. Hello? Always a good stuff. So anyway, I think people should be able to sell whatever they want to anyone else, but I don't think the state should be interfering in that. It's okay. It's okay to admit that some libertarian ideas are silly by abundant waters. I think I think you can say that, but I think a lot of the status things are silly. I think I should be able to say that too. I think a lot of the status ideas are silly. And, like this guy's gone. BK and HMB. In other words, the silly idea of violates your subjective morals and preferences is totally not silly if you agree with the idea. Yeah. Busload of migrants from Texas arrives in Los Angeles. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the migrants were sent to Los Angeles because California had declared itself a sanctuary for immigrants. From NBCDFW.com. And, I guess, if the migrants were willing to go, I think that was okay, but if they were forced to go, I don't think it's okay, so that's my fault there. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez files Trump for president in 2024 from CNN, and I posted that. I said, everyone to feel definitely be one of the most libertarian guys seeking the Republican nomination. He's really big on the crypto, and I think he wants to get rid of taxes and replace them with Miami coin in his city. I wonder if we'll see. I personally probably vote for Libertarian candidate over him, but he seems like probably one of the most libertarian guys in the Republican field, I would say. And he's also willing to go. We also want to vote against Donald Trump in 2020, and I think that's important to remember. He did just break from his party a lot. He also endorsed Andrew Gillum in 2018 against Ron DeSantis. So the Florida governor election, that's important to remember as well. It's it's always nice to see people break from their parties. And sometimes we have become far too reliant on the government. It's only gotten worse. This has to stop. From Big History 1, and that's linked to the post from theheritage.org. And I said from 2001, but it looks like it really could be from any year. And he replied, "This is how bad it's gotten." So yeah, it really has gotten that bad. I'd agree. You want to prosecute Trump? How about for the murder of a few 100,000 Yemenis? No, because then you'd have to lock up your number one hero, Barack Obama, with him. That's from Scott Horton on Twitter. And I said, prosecute all of them. And fuck Trump, but Obama's worse than him. No one has ever been able to control the narrative like he, at least in my lifetime. And I would say that Obama and Trump are a lot more similar in difference, but how the media says otherwise. Then we have Liberty and Family Actually Prison. And that is tweet from Bex on Twitter and from the White People Twitter subreddit, and she tweeted, Georgia currently County Libertarian Vice Chairman Jonathan Melanuagwa, who was arrested for raping his own children, has had an additional 121 counts for sexually exploiting children added to his charges. And yeah. So, yeah, I definitely think that's there's bad faith factors in all parts of the Republican Party. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Too many Americans are dependent on government from the.com by Big History. And they were going to yeah, so they posted that earlier. And I definitely agree. Too many people are dependent on government. You got to be more self-dependent, I think. I think that's something you have to try and do, yeah. If you're able to. I'm kind of autistic, so it can be hard for me, but I try and be as self-dependent as possible. I think that's important to remember. And then I think it's fun. Then we have I think it's funny when online left liberals admit that the only type of dissent or disobedience to the Democratic Party that is permitted is when it's completely inconsequential and theatrical, a pointless pose, an empty gesture. When your obedience is needed, you give it. And from Glenn Reed on Twitter, and I said, yeah, so one guy said, I'm going to vote for Dr. Cornel West because I don't live in the swing state. But if I live in the swing state, I'd vote for whoever the Democrats nominated. And the guy said, he replied, it's not a matter of obedience, it's a matter of taking pragmatic steps to avoid catastrophe. As Chomsky explains in Expiration whenever he comes up, I vote green local elections to help build national support, but now I'm often going to put a Republican in power. I said the problem is that people such as yourself frame the Dems as losing anything to be a catastrophe. That's the thing. So you got to stand up and say, no, we're not going to let you live in fear. The Republicans, the duopoly loves to use fear, but you got to stand up for your values and not just let the parties tell you what to do. And I have fuck Trump, Obama's worst time, but no one has ever been able to control the narrative like he can, at least in my lifetime. And I posted that on Twitter, and I posted it here. I said Obama has had many narratives that he puts. I would say the worst one was after Trayvon Martin's death, when he said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. That was pretty much the birth of modern identity politics. Trump isn't allowed to become a controlling narrative either. I'm really impressed by how he uses social media as almost his main platform because he knows that traditional media is biased against them. Overall, I would say Obama is better at it because he has the majority of traditional media on his side and is a bit more aware of the importance of his self-image than Trump does. And not coincident, one of the biggest backers of Trump has been the DNC using the Pied Piper strategy because they know how damaging it is to the Republican Party's brand. They're pretty much the only party that doesn't really matter, I would say. Libertarians from Larry Sharp is next. That's a meme Larry Sharp shared. Nice, and it was Some liberals, libertarians, just Republicans that smoke pot. Conservatives, libertarians are just liberals that like guns. Libertarians, we are people that believe the smallest minority of the individual should be free from government force over their lives, as long as they don't hurt anyone else. We have some conservative beliefs and some liberal beliefs, and they are united by bringing about standing up for everyone equally. So yeah, I'd agree with that. I personally would say that as libertarian, I oppose forced collectives, and people want to collectivize voluntarily. I'm fine with it. I'll try to remember to yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. Libertarians and anarchy, but I think if we did abolish government, people would have their own governments, and but I don't think people should be forced to participate in government if they don't want to. And right now they are for things like taxes, and that's important to remember. UK legal scholars track down 17th century murder case, proves Supreme Court wrong, from law.com by Ninja Lover, and let's see. Yeah, I like what Matty O'Clock says here. Supreme Court just can literally say anything. It doesn't matter if it's factually untrue. Yeah, that's the thing. I agree. We give the Supreme Court too much power, and you definitely see that when in all the countries that have Supreme Court. That's why I'm personally against the whole system of courts, because they can objectively decide whatever they want to, and you can't stop them no matter because we give them too much authority. NPR and PBS were originally created to expand equal access to education through technology, from NeimanReports.org by Muff Huggin. I think that's good. Now I think they're more just to push narratives or anything else. But then again, I think that's pretty much everything these days. Cruz Graham Grassley joined Democrats to advance journalism antitrust bill from thehill.com by Ninja Lover. I think that's interesting. Yeah. I definitely think that we shouldn't be supporting antitrust, but I guess people would justify when it comes to the law. Amy Coney Barrett delivers a big Supreme Court win for native rights by Ninja Lover, and that's from Slate.com. And yeah, I definitely think it's interesting that Amy Coney Barrett is. I definitely think native rights. The natives should be left alone, do whatever they want as long as they uphold the NAP. That's what I think. But for everyone, pretty much, I would say, as long as people should be left alone, as long as the NAP is being upheld. We have never abundant water spots supposed to just come in. We need U.S. immigration reform. I'm a U.S. citizen. My wife has been waiting 19 months to encounter country the USA. I said I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think immigration should be easy as possible. I agree there. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.